Who doesn't need more time? I do, but guess what? There isn't any. It doesn't exist. But we have some ways that maybe you can increase your productivity and your profitability on eBay without spending more time. So let's jump right into it. Welcome to the Prof Sales YouTube channel. I am Prof Sales.
And I'm Just Ask Kaaren.
And we are glad you decided to join us today here on our channel where we talk about being an entrepreneur, talking about reselling on platforms like eBay and Amazon, being in business for yourself, and generating just sort of a positive community here in our little corner of YouTube. We're glad you're here. There's a live chat going on right now that if you want to be part of, you can be part of normally. Sorry, I'm getting a call here. I need to disable that. And that was awkward.
Rookie.
I know. But again, very glad you guys are here, decided to join us. Leave us a question or comment in the chat. If you're in the chat right now, we'd like to hear from you. And of course, leave one after this video post.
Yeah, and if you're new, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, mateys. Arg. You know, because the little reminder thingy will let you know when we're on.
Yeah, there's a lot of helpful links down in the description down below that you can find, like links that will help your business and so on, tools and resources and so on. So check those out when you get a moment. But again, we are glad that you guys are here. It's a Friday. It's the middle of April 2018. I don't know when you're watching this video. It could be years from now. It could be years from now. People could be watching this video.
Like, this could be our time capsule.
That's sad, but true.
You know, decades from now.
Yes, decades from now, this could be your time This could be our time capsule, and this will be what will be remembered by as this video. So I guess we better make it a good one.
This one right here. So we've taken time out of our very swamped Friday. Swamped Friday to bring you this very special bulletin. No, not bulletin.
It's like you just went back to like the 60s or something there. But we're always thinking about topics to do for this show. And we started talking today about, we had a show last night where I got on with Luke of Endless Entrepreneurs. You can check that out. And he and I talked about 5 things each that we wanted to improve this year in our business. And a lot of them sort of tied into this idea of making more profit, being more productive, being more efficient, all those sorts of things. Like, I mean, who doesn't want to do that, right? I mean, who doesn't want to make more money, spend the same or even less amount of time, and do it for the same or less amount of effort? Like, that sounds amazing. And that's kind of what, some of the marketing gurus always want to sell you on. Hey, 1 minute a day and you'll make $1 million a month,
$1 million.
And it's usually not quite that easy. There's a few catches, but
sign me up.
But I think there's definitely ways that you can improve your profitability without spending a lot of extra time. Because for those of you who watch this channel a lot, you know that I am not a big fan of the hustle harder movement. Is it a movement?
It is if you make it one.
I think it's a movement. The hustle harder, work harder, grind harder, blah, 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 harder, 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 harder. I don't like it. And the reason I don't like it is because it suggests that people are have this endless energy and this endless time. And you have neither. You have neither. Like, you have a breaking point. You have a finite amount of energy. You have a finite amount of time, for sure. Like, we all have the same amount of time in a given day, a week, whatever. But you even have a finite amount of energy. Like, you can only work so hard. Who knows what that number is, what it looks like. But you can only work so hard.
All right, let me save y'all a lot of time right now. The work smarter, not harder. Show's over. That's all you need to know.
Yes.
But the show's really not over. That's what we're talking about, right? It's about doing it better, doing it smarter, not making yourself crazy, and learning from the experiences that you do have.
Yeah, and
accurate.
And eBay can be a grind, wouldn't you agree?
Now that I'm having to do it all by myself, all the things. And whose idea was it for me to sell all the things, by the way? Why can't I just sell purple widgets? Why do I have to sell
or thingies
or stuff?
Yeah, eBay is a grind. Let's be honest. Like,
okay,
let me back up there. To scale up eBay to any level, like to go from 10 listings to 20 listings, to go from 20 listings to 50 listings. whatever. You got to grind through it. That is a point where you got to quote unquote, you know, work harder at it. Like not even harder, just work more at it. Like it's kind of a grind. Like it's not, it's kind of the nature of the platform. It's time intensive. It's your energy intensive, and it's because you have to do, and I kind of wrote them down so we would make sure we know. You got to source items, right? You got to inspect them, make sure they're okay, there are no problems.
Got to take pictures.
Got to take, and you got to list,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to, and then you got to answer questions from people. That happens. You got to pack items up, and you got to ship them.
Yeah.
Turns out they want them after they buy them. Who knew?
Yeah, who knew?
And then I have written down here, rinse and repeat. And the reason is because
white pants.
Oh my gosh, I just got somebody's wearing white pants before Labor Day or before Memorial Day.
Not the rule anymore. Not the rule anymore.
So I'm so sorry.
They're not white anymore.
Wears
but
white
hey,
pants in a warehouse.
We've gotten past that.
So they're fine. You got it all. But it's all this energy you got to put into it, right, guys? I mean, if you're selling on eBay right now, you know this. Like, you know, there is a grind aspect to it, right? Whatever your level of grind is, it doesn't really matter. But I would say that if you can do something, like if you can spend more time doing something to make a profit, and you're like, you're spending more and more time doing it, like on eBay. Like, for instance, let's say that like you're selling items and you're making $10 an item on them. And then you decide to sell some other item that you're making $9 on, but you're putting the same amount of, you know, you're selling the same amount of them, but you're putting in even more and more time. As you're doing that, your hourly rate is dropping. Like if you're just putting in more and more and more and more time into eBay, and you're not getting a comparable amount of profit and rate of return back out, your hourly rate is dropping. We talked about this in the bins video last week, that, you know, you're depending on how much you're selling, your hourly rate for some of these models can be down pretty low, you know, when you think about being a business owner. Like no different than very part-time-ish, very available jobs that are out there that don't require you to go spend your money.
Well, and if no one else is going to remind you of this and tell you this and drill it into your brain more often than you think you need to hear it, you and your time are valuable. And it's about time you stop settling for the lowest hanging fruit, right?
Yeah.
Like I was just hit by that like a strike of lightning. But seriously, folks, your time is valuable. What you're putting into your business is valuable. And I think too often, a lot of folks are just selling themselves short. They're just settling. We can't, like, as in life, you just can't settle.
Yeah, no, you're right. And you know, this is the thing. Like you guys all out there have some idea about what your time is worth, right? And it's not even about really a number. I mean, you can put a number on it if you want, but it's more about you have a sense of worth in yourself and your efforts. And I would argue that sense of worth and that what you're worth, it should be high. It should be high. Like you should have a high expectation. I mean, when you think about people who are the top 1/10 of the top 1% of wage earners in this country, for instance, these people are making thousands of dollars per hour. When you start figuring out their rates of return, even tens of thousands of dollars per hour in some cases. Do you really believe they're just hustling harder? Like, are they just working so hard that they made $10,000 an hour? No, they figured out a better way to build a mousetrap, right? Are they 10,000? If they're making $10,000 an hour and you're making, you know, even $100 an hour, are they 100 times smarter than you working hard? No, they're not. So it's only become that. And I'm not saying you have to go out and make $10,000 an hour to be successful. I'm just saying that when you think about what's possible, like the sky kind of really is the limit. Mm-hmm. Like there's not like a number you could put on what you're worth and say, well, that's the maximum.
Well, and it's also so subjective, and I'm not going to be too specific, but recent conversations, people that we've encountered, perhaps in groups or otherwise, talk about what really matters. And it's all very subjective. But success means vastly different things to different people. And it's
Sure.
not always making the most money. It's not always taking that promotion, right?
Right.
It's in a lot of cases, as you know, as we get older and wiser, it's more so being humble and happy where you're at, and
Right.
just fine tuning and honing that.
We were talking about this the other night in my men's group, and this guy ended up with a promotion opportunity, and the promotion would have paid him a lot more. Not promotion, another job, another company. Excuse me.
I wasn't going to do it, but go ahead.
It would have paid him a lot more money than he was making, like significantly more money. However, it came with a lot of uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
It came with a lot of unknowns,
potential stress.
And he had a strategy for the place where he was working that to this point had not worked yet by his own definition, mm-hmm. but he really hadn't been in it and doing it long enough to really know if it was going to work. And he decided not to take the other job, even though, and I told him, I said, you know, when you were telling us that story, the first thing that came to my mind is I started trying to figure out what the right decision was, mm-hmm. you know, as I'm sure you did. And he said, yeah, of course I did. And then I realized there is no right decision.
And
there's no way to know that.
And we're all always trying to figure out the right decision. And the answer is there. I mean, you just said it, there isn't. Like, you just have to commit and go with it.
Yeah.
And you know, we should say thank you to Red Neckerson for the super chat. The 177 is back.
It's back.
And he also mentions that made a bad mistake today that cost him some money. So maybe we'll talk about that later.
Maybe we will. You know, so you can't beat yourself up over these decisions and so on. But I think that if you take some of the tips we're going to tell you about here in a moment, you can maximize, you know, your profitability without spending tremendous amounts of time and energy more than you're doing now. Matter of fact, in some cases, you could spend some less, which just magnifies it, you know? So let's jump into these and talk about them. I think that every person who sells on eBay could do these things. And some of you probably are already doing some of these things. Some of them we've talked about before. Mm-hmm. But I think it's always good to go back to these because we get in a rut and we realize that, you know, maybe I'm doing it this way, but that really doesn't make sense.
Right. And today's list will go to 11. No. Not like the shirt. It'll go to 8. But again, today is all about making eBay great. No, making eBay simpler again. Right?
Making eBay great again.
Yep.
Do you want to do one or me?
I'll do one. So the first one is to batch your tasks. And I know that you're going to have some scientific input there. But mainly for most people, doing listing in batches or the photos in batches will be faster than doing single items one at a time. Like going through your entire process per item will actually take you longer than, let's say, doing some listings or making some drafts for 5 items and then going to the photography. Because for us, like if we did that, we have to turn on all the lights, arrange the table, and that takes time, right?
Right.
So why not get your photo area, for example, in order, turn those lights on, get your table ready to go, and then you have the 5 items, 10 items, whatever, in a row that you want to batch.
Would you argue too that sourcing should be done in batches?
Oh, sure.
Because I didn't put that on here, but I just thought about it. Like, because you know, there's a lot of people in this community who go out and source every day, mm-hmm. and I don't really understand that.
All right, keep going with your bad.
Well, I mean, I don't understand it because first of all, I think it depletes your capital. Second of all, this argument that there's always a good deal out there every day. Well, yeah, there is, but that doesn't mean you're going to get it. And it doesn't mean you're even going to find it. So I don't know what, you know, like to me, it always made more sense to have some sort of sourcing goal. All right, I'm going to, you know, add 20 items this week, 30 items, whatever. I have this capital reserve I'm going to use for sourcing and I'm going to go spend it. Like, it doesn't make sense to me to sort of just keep sourcing every day. I mean, there's no wisdom to this logic that, you know, there's going to be better deals tomorrow than there is today. Why? I mean, we don't know that. I mean, there are specific discount days and certain things, but you okay?
Yeah, just keep going.
Well, yeah, the sourcing everyday thing, I would batch that and say, I'm going to source this day or these 2 days, whatever, because of whatever's going on. I just think that, you know, I think it's a mistake. Ninja says they online RA source every day, 10 minutes and done. Right. But you have a time frame for it. You're like, I'm going to spend 10 minutes doing this. And then that's it. Like, I'm not going to spend 2 hours doing it. All right, let's move on to number 2. So number 2 is to sell similar size items using similar size packages and boxes. And this is actually one you came up with.
Yes.
But this allows you to stockpile those resources, and you don't have to think about what to ship something in. You can stockpile your packaging, your boxes, poly bags, envelopes, whatever it is you're using. And it also requires, this also allows you to use weight ranges on the items when you sell them, which is easier than calculating shipping methods, which require sometimes weight and dimensions for every single item when you do that calculated shipping sometimes, depending on the method you use. That's time consuming. And what do you really get for that? Like, remember, you've sold an item, clock is ticking. Every moment you spend on that item from that point forward, you're losing hourly rate. You've already sold it. You've already made the money. But now you got to spend even more time into it. Like, you want to minimize that amount of time and energy in my book.
Right. And that's the point of every line item that we're going to talk about today. You know, for jeans, it is easier for us to use all padded flat rates, right?
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, because it was simple. We knew the cost. We could order them in bulk. We could have them readily available. Almost all jeans would fit in them. Piece of cake.
Yep. And there's some comfort and some flow and some rhythm to that. Like, all of these things that we're talking about remember, it's supposed to make it easier and more fluid and just better, more effective, right?
Right. Number 3.
My turn?
Yep.
It's in the crease, so I have to open it up.
It's in the crease.
And I'm going to read it, but it's all you. Document your processes. Look for efficiencies as well as bottlenecks. What are you doing well, and what are you kind of getting stuck on, right?
Right. Go ahead.
I
I said you should do this when you're not in the moment of doing it necessarily. Like, to go back and evaluate it, because like right when you're in the middle of shipping something, you don't need to like sit there and stop and think about how you're doing it. Like, just write it down. Like, I did this, and then later go back and look at it, because we talked about this last night. Here's the thing, people, we're creatures of habit, and we think we know how we do something, but sometimes we really don't. Like, we think, oh, I always do it this way. But if you write it down, if you type it out, whatever, and you put it on paper, like, that can change your perception of whether or not you really do it or not. Because then you realize, well, I do it that way 90% of the time, but then this other 10% of the time I have to do it this way. So now you've got another part to your process, another component. And a lot of times that other part, even though it might only be 10% of the time that you do it, you spend an inordinate amount of time on that 10% because it's complicated. It's got a different structure. You have to do it a different way. So, kind of writing that out. Like, today, you ran into a pair of boots that we had to ship that did not fit. We'll talk about it, but they did not fit in the normal shipping box. So you had to go get a different box.
Yeah, we had to improvise. Yeah, we're going to talk about boxes. A tale of 4 boxes is actually what we'll talk about later. But Kelly actually brings up a good sort of byproduct of documenting your processes. Like, if you're ever going to bring someone into the fold, if you're ever going to hire someone, you darn well better know how to do it yourself and do it well backwards and forwards before you bring someone else in. So one of the benefits to documenting your processes is it makes it easier for you to teach someone else. Because if and I'm not even going to say overthought it, because Lord knows we've all had our times where we've overthought things. But this is just knowing how it works and how you get from point A to point B and knowing it well and just sort of dissecting it a little bit. And we're always looking for ways to make it better. And, we're talking about shipping, like the different size boxes and such. We now have a shipping department, which has made us 10 times more efficient, I think, in the shipping department. There's a place for everything in its place. We can get to it easily. We can measure, mark, cut, whatever, all in one place.
Yeah. So I guess we can move on to number 4. Is this me or you?
I believe I read the last one, so you can read this one and I'll talk about it. Okay.
So this one is about raising your average selling price, assuming it raises the actual dollars you make per item. So, do you want to do the examples or me?
No, please.
Well, like an example,
It's math. Come on.
Let's say you're selling $20 items where you net $10. Okay, just make math super simple. So let's decide that you really make the effort to start sourcing and selling items that will sell for $30 and you'll net $12. Now you might think, well, why not? Wouldn't it go up by 50%? Not necessarily. You might not make a whole 50% raise, even though you raise your selling price about 50%. But if you do that and you sell the same amount of the 30 as you did the 20, you just gave yourself a 20% raise for everything that you sell. And you're not really doing anything that differently. And some of you are going to say, well, I don't have the capital to do that. Well, you can ease into it. You don't have to go out and buy 500 items right off the bat. So I just think that that's a super easy way to raise your average hourly rate, and something we've been focusing on, that you don't have to document a process or do anything really that drastically differently. You just have to think about, hey, and maybe even in your niche, there's things that will sell for more that you traditionally shy away from because you don't know about them or you haven't found the right place to source them or what have you.
Right. And that's one of our main goals for this year, is raising our average selling price, our ASP, right?
Yes.
As well as the value of our time.
Absolutely.
Our VOT and our ASP.
Yep. It's an easy one to make more money without spending more time.
So the next one, probably number 5,
yep.
Create business policies for all contingencies around payment, returns, and shipping. Try to have maybe 1 to 3 at most for each one. And what do we mean by that, Prof? Contingencies. What are these things you call contingencies?
Well, as Kaaren has started listing more things recently, she's been running into these situations where I haven't thought about them now for really in much depth for a couple years or so. But
we'll have to bring you in.
Well, that's a
hidden camera when that moment happens. Jason!
That's the good thing about when somebody does something new that you've been doing for a while. It forces you to sort of go back and really think about your process and how you do it. But like, for instance, being able to have a return policy and have that, and creating one, saying, all right, I'm doing 30-day returns, and that's it. That's what I'm doing. And that's pre-selected for, say, like a template every single time. You don't have to think about it anymore. Like, do I want to do 14? Do I want to do no returns? Just come up with one and move on from it. Shipping's the big one, right? Are you going to do flat shipping, flat rate, calculated, free, what have you? You could come up with a couple variations there and name them something that will be very specific. Like, we will name something like, I was creating ones yesterday called shoes, $9.99. So that's what you're charging, like a flat $9.99 to ship shoes. Does that cover every pair of shoes and their shipping cost? No, there are some that cost more than that. We sent a pair today that cost almost $18 to ship.
Where did those go?
We can talk about that.
Okay.
And that was our place.
Yeah.
That you were like, oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
sorry, we're going to talk about that later.
But having like those little easy payment processes, shipping, returns, those are 3. And then having templates, which I didn't put on there, those will pay off. Like, you'll save like 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds every single listing.
Right. And it doesn't sound like much, but over the day, the course of a day, it adds up. It's a lot of time.
In the course of a year, oh my gosh, it turns into hours.
And I have to say that, the way our brains work so differently, but contingencies, period, are a good thing to have. Like, we're talking specifically about listing, but what about contingencies when it comes to inventory, supply, even shipping? Like, if we didn't have shipping contingencies, like real world, not virtual here, but if we didn't have different containers or different boxes or different envelopes or different tape or different whatevers, like that, talk about wasting or creating more time for yourself than necessary. If we didn't have that extra box or different options to put these boots in, we would be adding on another hour at least, because we'd have to go to the store and see if they had one, or heaven forbid, we have to go to the UPS store and buy a box.
True story. Last year, or maybe it was a year and a half, maybe it was 2 years ago. I don't remember what the item was, but there was something I shipped. I think I was shipping it to Amazon, believe it or not.
Yeah,
and it was a weird shape. Like, it was very long and it was kind of wide. It wasn't very tall. It was like a board game, but it was bigger than that. I literally could not find a box that would fit this thing. I had to buy a box from UPS, and it cost me $11 for a box. It sucks so bad. I'm like, well, I think now I'm going to make like $4 on this. But I'd already told Amazon I was shipping it to them. I could have backed it all out, but what a debacle! Like I should have been on that from the get go, and I was not. Oh, I know what it was. It was like a towel rod.
It was
like a towel rod in your bathroom. That's a weird thing to ship. It just doesn't fit in any box very easily. And I had a couple of them I had to ship. So you're all over with the contingencies.
Mm-hmm. That's you. Number 6.
Number 6. If you have these contingencies, that will work best for your product. When you're listing something, your product should be niched. We've talked about this before, because niches allow the most efficient streamlining. No doubt about it. If you're trying to source everything, inspect everything, photo everything, and list everything, understand, all the complexities of pricing of all this wide range of stuff, you've got to literally, for probably a good couple years, be looking up almost everything. And it is so time consuming. You will just spend so much time trying to figure out if you should buy something, what it will fit in, how much does it weigh, what should I price it, instead of going to niches where even 2 or 3 of them, you can take all those things out of the equation early on and then focus on finding great products.
Disclaimer time. So again, we're not saying don't sell all the thingies, but we are saying, especially when you're new, and I'm like a broken record. I can't say this enough because I find myself sort of in this hole myself. But concentrating, being good at one thing is better than being mediocre at several, especially when you're getting started. So sort of niche in, focus in on just a couple of things at first. Otherwise, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get on your Mac and you're going to look up this Star Wars Risk game, and then you're going to look up that Vineyard Vines hoodie, and then you're going to look up, what else did I do the other day? Oh, those PS3 games that you've been meaning to sell, and you're going to get bogged down. And I would even risk saying that it's going to do a number on your motivation and your drive, because all of a sudden what you thought and what all these people on YouTube are telling you should not be that time intensive is taking you forever, right?
I just thought of an analogy.
Oh, do share.
Suppose you had a job that you go to, and on day 1, they teach you what you're supposed to do. And then day 2, it's a whole nother set of things that you need to do. And then day 3, it's something completely different. Like going wide on eBay is almost like that. Like you're literally having to relearn it every single day for a while.
It's Groundhog Day over and over.
Well, except it's not the same thing.
It's not. It's like every other different animal day.
So it's much easier if you went into work and they said, well, this is what you're doing. You're going to be doing these 3 things, and you're going to be doing these 95% of the time. And they'll add things in over time as things come up. But you can't, having a job where you're literally having to reinvent it every single day sounds great, but you'll never be very proficient at it. And you won't be at this either if you're constantly having to reinvent, the wheel every single day.
It's the gerbil circle.
Number 7.
Hamster wheel. Order supplies in bulk. Oh my gosh, can we just say that again? Order supplies in bulk. If they're USPS, not only are they free, but they'll be delivered right to your home or office. Expeditiously, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
Not only are they usually less expensive buying them in bulk, but it'll also save you time, as you don't have to make the orders as often. One of the things that we have in place right now is just, we kind of eyeball it, but with the PFREs, for example, which we use a lot of, once it gets to a certain level, there's like 2 bins over there that have them. It's like immediately we know, okay, we have to order another box or 2 or 5, right?
Right. And I try to go through supplies like really about once a month, and going through and say, all right, what do we need? What do we not need? Instead of kind of looking at it every day and every week and then going in and making an order for this one thing and there, like that's not very efficient. Like, because your mind is somewhere else already, and then you've got to stop and think about supplies for a few moments. And supplies are necessary, but you really don't want to spend a lot of time on them. So you can, little tips and tricks to. And
if you have the space, the PFREs in particular, they could actually stay in the box they come in, and you can use that box, maybe even for a woolly mammoth at some point.
let's not get back on that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it when we're done.
Oh,
there's an update to the woolly mammoth.
Last one, guys. So that sounded so convincing.
You just like to say woolly mammoth. Are we going to get all giggly again today?
All right. And this is kind of I feel like guys are programmed to do this early on with tools. Just kind of like we're socialized this way. I'm not saying women aren't either. I'm just saying that men, this is a thing. Like, all right, all the guys out there, you know that when you got a project to do, having like 5,000 tools and having the right one is so useful. Granted, the other 4,999 did nothing for you, but that one you needed, that one time, is so super useful. You need to buy the equipment your business needs, even if it costs money and takes some profit out of your pocket one month. Equipment, software, apps, subscriptions, these are all designed to improve your productivity. Now, that being said, some of them work better than others, right? I mean, some are great, some are not so great, some are just not even useful at all. But just like when you're doing a project around the house or you're working on a car, you're trying to fix something, if you have the right tool for the job, you are automatically more productive and efficient. You know, trying to hammer in a nail with a screwdriver, it'll work, but not very well. It's much easier with a hammer, right? So this is the same thing. Like if you have the right printer or the right printers, you have a computer that works for you, you got a camera that'll work for you. And this is not saying you got to go out and buy the most expensive setup or anything of the sort. Are you using labels correctly? You know, like, are you using stick-on labels instead of taping on the labels with a piece of paper? You know, just things like that will speed you up, will keep you from being frustrated because you didn't have what you needed, or it was just too hard or too difficult to use. Those things, they're valuable. I mean, that's how big companies, you know, maximize their productivity and efficiency. They spend money for sure to get the right equipment, but that right equipment multiplies their productivity so much they have to do it. So I think it's a good tip.
So all I got out of that was we have a toolbox over there. It's purple. Whose is it?
Mine.
No. It's my toolbox with all my little matching purple tools in it.
I have 2 toolboxes at home for things that come up at home.
For this exercise, don't matter. We
don't really need to do many projects here. Occasionally, we might need a hammer or a screwdriver or a wrench, which we have here in Karen's tool bag.
Thank you very much.
But I think it's just one of those things where you really have to think about what is going to 1x or 2x, or not 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, whatever, your productivity and your time. Because if you can get more productive without spending more time, even if it costs you money initially, you still can see a profit boost on the back end. Because this is not about like, you know, I just keep going back to it. It's not just a work hard, hustle harder kind of thing, what we're doing here, guys. Like, you really do have to work smarter at this if you really want to scale and grow to some level. Otherwise, you're just going to be working hard your whole life. And who wants to do that? It's like I was talking with Jared, my CPA today, and because he was talking about, you know, making his business, you know, more efficient and so on. But he was always afraid of losing control of it. And I said, well, do you want to be the ditch digger, or do you want to be the guy who owns the company that employs the ditch digger? And he's like, I don't know, because even if I owned the company that employed the ditch diggers, I'd probably want to go out and find some more land to dig some more ditches.
I would want to be the company that sold the shovels.
There you go. There it is. Mic drop, show over. That was it. So there you go, guys. 8 tips that hopefully, you know, think about how you can apply them to your job, to your business, to what you're doing. Our way is not maybe going to be your way, and some of those are going to make more sense to you than others.
Yeah. And, you know, earlier in the chat, and we should probably get back to some of the comments at some point, but Rob, hello, good to see you, brought up that there's a method to the madness of sourcing every day. And we get that. Like one of the things that is beneficial is that if you have these certain spots, you want to go and you want to, you know, try to get the things. Like that's the mentality, right? That you want to, if you miss a day, you're going to miss out on something, or whatever. But not really. Yeah, I know you feel that way.
Well, it's not even feeling that way. I can prove it. Because here's the thing. If I say to you, you've got a store, let's say it's a thrift store. Doesn't matter which one it is. And 10 times a year, that thrift store is going to have a higher percentage of items for you to buy that will earn you more profit than it does the other 90% of the time. And you would say, I'm going to go to that store every single day so that I don't miss that 10%. So you're going 330 some days, 365 days a year, and 330 of them aren't going to be any different than the other than any other day. But those 30 some days are going to be better. But here's the problem. There's multiple stores like that. And you don't know when those days are going to be. And you can't go to all those stores every day because there's just too many of them. So at some point, you're going to have to realize, I'm going to miss out on some deals. I'm going to miss some home runs. I'm not going to find them all. I need to figure out a method and a system that works, but I have to be okay with the fact that sometimes this store and 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 this area are going to have great things all at the same time, and there's just no way for me to get to them all. You have to be okay with that because that's just reality. Like, you can't be in 50 places at once. So I think it works better to come up with some sort of sourcing strategy, a day, half a day, whatever, and just say, I'm going to go do it this day.
Or if you're going to do a location source, then do it over a weekend. Like, one of the things that we do when we go abroad is we plan out an entire trip that way, right? Because if we hear from folks all the time that it's a bit of a travel, it's a distance for them to get to where they're sourcing. So by all means, make the most of it. If you're on vacation, source while you're on vacation or a business trip or something like that. But if you're going to be in an area, instead of having to drive there, drive back, drive there, drive back, because at some point, if you're spending all the time sourcing, then Houston, we potentially are going to have a problem. And it's very easy to figure out what that problem is. You're going to have so much stuff, and then you don't know what to do with it, right? And time, you can't go out and buy more of. So you need to find the balance where you're acquiring the stuff, and then in a timely fashion, you're processing it, listing it, etc.
And here's reality too. You're going to go in a store and maybe find some great deals, and then you're going to leave said store, and they're going to put out more great deals, and you're going to miss those. That absolutely has happened. And you will never know how many times it's happened by definition because you weren't there, because you can't stay there. And even if you could stay in one store all the time, there's other stores where that's happening. You're going to miss deals. So, I think at some point, as long as you can be okay with that, then, it's all right that you understand that you're going to have to source, in a different, you're going to have your sourcing at specific times. I think it's just another part of this business. I don't look at sourcing as like this end all be all of anything. I think it's a part. It's a crucial part for sure, but it's not the only part, and it's not the only part that you need to have some sort of competency in.
Well, one of the things that I like about how you do your sourcing, and it is different. No, one of the things I like is that each month or each week or whatever, you have a budget, and once you spend that money, then you're done. Sourcing is done for the month or the week or the whatever. And now we're going to, and it makes it easier for us to move on to other things, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, and that's, I guess that's an idea for another show. But you're speaking about discipline. I'll let you read that in a sec. You're speaking about discipline though. Like, what do you do once you reach that budget and then you find that other thingy?
Right.
Like at some point, I mean, I don't mean to be the mom here, but at some point the discipline has to, because it's all about your money flowing in, flowing out, and making sense of it. So that's something to consider too. But
and Rob, thank you for the super chat. He says, you missed my point. I can't explain a short chat, which I can appreciate. It's always tougher on your side of this side of the camera because, you're typing, and it is tougher to make a nuanced point, which I think you're probably trying to do. And we can talk about it, but I think anytime you are thinking about a part of your business, you have to, as you said, like, you have to have a plan. You have to have some parameters. You have to have some rules that sort of make sense and are set in place, or otherwise you end up just being very reactive and just going sort of willy-nilly. And this thing maybe is getting a lot of attention, but this one over here needs it and it's not. And, you'll end up hurting your results if you don't do that.
So why don't you take Rob's call offline? No, I'm just kidding. So by no means are we saying that you're doing it wrong, but you guys.
No, it's not that at all.
You guys, get it clear, and then we'll come back and readdress it.
Kelly says if you have a huge death pile, maybe skip a day sourcing. I would skip all
at
days.
Least a day. Yeah. So Yeah, if you really have a huge death pile, and we've said this, and people still just keep on keeping on. But yeah, skip all the days. Like, have enough respect for yourself and your blossoming business that you don't get in a bad way.
Yeah.
You stop sourcing until you list all of those things.
It's like digging a hole and just you keep digging below your feet to get out of it.
Well,
Doesn't make sense.
You're like digging, like you're taking dirt out on this side with a shovel, but then you're just putting it over your shoulder and it's filling in right behind you. Like that's
right. You're just moving sideways. You're not moving out of the hole. You're just.
I don't get it.
There you go.
So to update Beth Ann's woolly mammoth, it looks like she got a box and the thing is going to get relisted. Like I want to buy it. I might need a woolly mammoth.
For those of you who don't know, yeah. Was that Wednesday? That was Wednesday, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah. So we're not going to go back down that rabbit hole.
We just got a little silly and got giggly on woolly mammoth. But anyway, Beth Ann, much luck to you, and do keep us posted on the tale of the woolly mammoth. Speaking of tales, part of your Instagram post today, me and my 5 chins, anyway, was a tale of
2 cities.
1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. So today, strangely enough, we had 4 different pair of boot shoes go out, and all 4 of them required different levels of attention, right?
Kaaren was over there for like 30 minutes boxing stuff.
Yeah, and so there was no way, like we had contingencies in place. We had all the thingies in line.
This is a weird one.
But all 4 of them, they were, slightly different in size, but every pair of boots was shipped a different way, but it went in it had to go in a different package because it just wouldn't. There's nothing that we have that's uniform for all of the thingies. There just isn't. And most of that is because of, we don't want to spend all the monies on a shipping box. So we have to be conscientious to size and weight in particular. So we're going to do a little bit of show and tell because I am the whatchamacallit, I'm the Frankenbox queen, self-appointed, of course.
Yeah, try not to move the camera.
Oh, well. So this one is just a typical USPS shoebox. And I have to hold it awkward because I can't show the address of the person.
Right.
But this pair of shoes didn't come in a shoebox. It had to go in a USPS shoebox, right?
No
and
problem.
It's domestic, so no problem
there.
Those,
no issue.
Yeah, no problem.
Free from USPS store.
All right, this one, and there's my signature X, right? This one, the shoe box that it came in, and this is a really heavy. These are all, like, a couple of them were almost 5 pounds once all the said and done.
It was crazy.
So this one got the special brown paper extra tape reinforcement treatment, right? So that's 2. This one had to go in a Frankenbox.
Oh, that's your.
Whoop!
Jeez, rookie.
We're moving on. So this one had to get Frankenbox, and it kind of fit just perfectly, right? So that was a priority mail. And then this one, and I really, really can't show you this one. This is is this the boot box?
Yeah, that's
all right.
one.
So this is the new 12 by 16 by 12
16 by 12
by 8 box.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to, there's a reason why we're doing this, as cumbersome as it may be for some of you. So this is the first time we've used this boot box.
Right.
And what's cool about it is this eBay cardboard weighs less than the USPS stuff.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to do this one, and it's going to Puerto Rico. We can say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this one was the most expensive. It was almost $18 to ship.
Yeah.
But this is how my brain works. I'm like, you know what? This fella probably really needs it because of recent news, right? Puerto Rico's kind of had
they got hard hit by those hurricanes
of it, right? And there's some pretty heavy duty work boots. So we did our best to package this. I wasn't comfortable. It's come up in Instagram with some people struggling with, somebody in our Facebook group sent a package and they put all the tape around the brown paper, and they actually got a criticism that it took the person too long to open the box. What it really turned out being was that the person didn't want the shoes that were in the box to begin with, but that's a whole nother story. But with it going to Puerto Rico, we just weren't comfortable, either Frankenboxing it or brown papering it and taping it, because who knows the journey that box is going to take. And again, even though this box is super huge compared to the other ones, it's not heavier. It didn't add excess weight to the packaging. I used eBay tissue paper to help pad the shoes on the inside of their original shoe box, and then craft paper on the inside. And you can shake it. I mean, it's not really moving around.
It's not moving hardly any.
No, so there won't be any damage to the shoes on the inside. So there's that. So.
Yeah, hopefully somebody will get some great work out of those boots. They're nice boots too. I think they were Wolverine boots. I can't remember.
Cat or Wolverine, I can't remember, but they're super heavy duty stuff. But that will tell you that we have to go to the post office.
Can you hand me that one?
Oh, really?
And then this one.
We're not talking.
Do you know what's in here?
We're not talking about it.
So Kaaren, you might have missed this. Well, it would have told you. You do the bulk shipping, don't you? When you have multiples, I can't remember.
Yes, I know how to do it.
But I mean, it doesn't come up that often because you're usually not selling a lot of multiples to the same person.
So
anyway, this came up, 2 pair of jeans to the same person, and these were just older jeans I'm getting rid of for $15. So not making a lot of profit on these when you figure about a $6.90, padded flat rate. But as you can see, they both went in the package. So instead of paying $6.90 for each of them, I basically paid whatever that works out to, $3.95.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Or no,
$3.45.
$3.45. What did I say? 95. $3.45 each.
Math.
So my shipping for those is basically the same as it would be for first class. Just got lucky. So 2 jeans will fit in a padded flat rate in certain cases.
Other things will fit
so you know.
In a padded flat rate as well. Right? This is his "I told you so, I'm right" moment. Because whenever he wants to do something crazy like this and like over whatever, he gets to do it.
She didn't like that they were both in there. She thought it didn't look that great. And I'm like, I'm saving that $3 or that $6.90.
It was a big deal because especially with the jeans that were blowing out, it's
Yeah, they're not size 52, 32. You're right. And I kind of looked at them, and if you kind of like fold them in triple and then over, and then reverse orient them. So the thicker part is, on the thinner part of the one and vice versa. You can get 2 in there sometimes of women's jeans, usually not any men's will fit there. But women's sometimes like maybe a 6 or so or a little bit smaller will fit. Any bigger than that, though, it gets really difficult.
The other ones were a 40-32. But that was just a single pair, and they went in no problem. Right.
So it was good to get those in there, save a few bucks on the shipping. Always just, little efficiencies, guys. Like that's $6.90 right in the pocket, that you didn't have to spend. So I'll always look for those, which help offset some of the cost of those boots, which were more than what we charged for shipping, for sure.
Well, and one of the things that you're doing differently as far as the boots in particular, because we're kind of taking a hit on some of those, is that we're making templates, right?
Yep,
contingencies for boots, and we're actually going to have a boot one, and then we'll have a shoe one. But in the templates, it'll be at least I don't know what it is, $12.99 will be shipping for boots, and and you've just changed some things, and it doesn't seem to be affecting sales. That we instead of giving it away, we're now charging partial or all shipping for boots in particular.
So mental note, if you're in North Carolina and you're shipping to Puerto Rico and it's 4 to 5 pounds, it's going to cost you nearly $18. Just so you know, to go USB, to go priority mail. So anyway, what else we got? You got
just this.
There.
Well, you can ask people if they have questions.
Oh yeah, if you have any questions or comments, sorry we didn't say that. Please leave them in the chat. You can type the word question, type some question marks in front. Red Neckerson's lightly caressing the like button. Yeah, hitting the like button would be nice too. Thanks for that, Steve. The shout out to everybody. Steve always comes in to smash the like button.
The original gangsta pirate. Smash the like button. That's where I get it from, but whatever. So my stickers got here. See my little craft stickers? And Jason thinks it's just the silliest thing ever. But that's just my little put it on the packing slip and they'll know maybe.
It's your thing. It's your branding.
Some extra love went into it.
Never made a template. Is it hard to do? No, it's not. You can do it. I like to do it. Okay, so if you're selling men's and women's items, I like to do one for each just because there can be things that sometimes are different. So say you're selling men's and women's jeans. So I made one women's jeans, men's jeans, and it filled in things like the shipping, returns, the payment process, the payment. It also filled in, you can fill in your description. You can fill in, what describing the jeans. So you can just put a little something there. Don't go crazy with what you put in there. You can fill in your category, any subcategories, your store category that if you have a store and you're going to put it in a store category. You technically could fill in other things too. Like you can fill in your price if you want, but obviously your price is probably going to be the one thing that's going to vary a lot. Your title is going to vary a lot. You could go really crazy with it and make a bunch of templates and make one for each type of jean, for instance, like brand and fit. And I realized I am not sitting here and making like 500 of these things. This is crazy. So I just made one for jeans, women's, and one for men's jeans, women's, and one for women's shoes and one for men's shoes. So I can just very quickly, if I want, go right to that. Everything is already pre-filled. I don't have to worry about something getting put in there incorrectly because I've already set it to be the way it needs to be. So making a template is definitely not hard.
Hey, Purple Lily, I got them on Amazon, and I think I can pull from our invoice and put a link. We can add a link to show you the exact ones because I shopped the heck out of them, and these were the best deal. I want to say I paid $11.99, and it was Prime, so I got free shipping for 1,500 stickers. And not all stickers are created equal. So I shopped like nobody's business.
Ben's championship game, somebody asked.
So last match of the season is a week from tonight, and right now we are still in first place for the state. So the championship games actually start April 28th and May 5th. So the playoffs are April 28th, and then the grand championship, which we think we're going to be at the top of the table for, is going to be May 5th.
I actually went out yesterday and learned some rugby from Ben and played rugby with him, and I'm thinking about going pro now. So just if you don't see me reselling anymore, that's what I'll be doing. I'll be playing professional rugby because, look at me. How could I not be great?
Well, and Clearance Ninja wants to know why include a packing slip. And of all the things that we do, that's probably one of the things that we could do without. And sometimes we do if it makes a difference in the weight of an item.
It's that close. Like if it's dead on 15 ounces.
Like it matters.
Or 16 ounces.
It matters until it doesn't. But why do we include a packing slip? Great question.
Well, it tells the buyer who they bought it from if they do need to return it. It allows you to put a message in there to the buyer asking them to give you feedback. You don't need to say give you positive feedback because sometimes eBay's kind of iffy about wanting you to do that. They don't like it when you do that. So just put, hey, consider feedback for us and let us know if there's a problem we can solve. Sometimes, I don't know if people read them or not, but it allows you, and it also allows you too, that when you're pulling the items to match them up with what the item is and make sure that that's, because your inventory might say, hey, pull item number 2000 and you pull it and then look at the invoice and go, that's not what the invoice says.
Right. And it's just become a part of our process, especially when we were talking. And some days we have lots of things to process and it would be so easy to get them mixed up.
Oh, sure. Especially if you're selling something like jeans.
And as of right now, our manifest prints with the SKU and location on it. But depending upon how we've had that listed, it won't always appear on the packing slip. So it's another checks and balances for us. We're able to see from that packing slip that is. And I double check it because it's the times when we don't we run into, like, do you remember those?
It's happened.
Like 2 weeks ago that we sent the wrong jeans to somebody or someone sent the wrong jeans.
She blames me. I blame her. Just ended 1,000 of my old listings that have been on for 2 years. I'm losing money if left on. Average price was 99 cents. What do you think? Well, I mean, you have an inventory problem that all of us have had. What to do with old, quote unquote, stale inventory, things that haven't sold. You got a few choices. You can try to blow it out at a really low price. That's kind of what we're doing with $15 free shipping jeans. I mean, that's a low price for jeans. You can pull them all off. I saw a Facebook person today talking about they actually sometimes will contact ThreadUp, I think it's ThreadUp, and ask if they will take them, because they will take certain brands and so on, and they can send them into them. I think they provide the shipping label. I'm not positive on that. So you're not going to get, a lot of money for them, but you might make back, 20, 30, 40, 50% of your buy cost maybe. Of course, you could donate them and potentially have a tax write-off for a donation. You donate them back. So that's an option as well. But ultimately, at some point, you want to get either the space back and or the capital back. Even if you broke even on them, if you've had them listed for a long time, that's still kind of a win because you can reflip that capital.
Yeah, you've got lots of options. But at some point, and we're dealing with some of that stuff around here, you just have to let it go. Like it becomes we may have gotten a good deal on it, but now it's keeping us from putting something else more valuable, more profitable in that same space. So
Beer to Picker makes a great point. Says if the label is damaged, the post office will open the box and will send to the buyer's address on the invoice. I didn't know that, but that's amazing. And that there is a reason, because I wonder where it would go otherwise. Like it would literally just sit at the post office because they wouldn't know where to take it and send it back to, because there'd be nothing in the package to tell them. Oh, and they couldn't read it. Yeah, for sure.
Trish says, Prof, do you think you'll ever go back to Amazon?
You know, I've wanted to go to the jungle, and I've never really made the trip. But I mean, it looks beautiful and amazing. But the mosquitoes. Oh, you mean the e-commerce platform? All
right, we need to probably wrap it up soon.
It's Friday.
Woolly mammoth. Yeah,
it's definitely possible. We're kind of in a strange situation right now because we're consigning things for people that they sold on Amazon and then we're unable to make sales on. We don't want to be competing with our consigners with, kind of our items and so on. So we have to kind of think really hard about whether we're going to do that. Right now, it's definitely a possibility, but there's nothing right now looming that we will be doing on Amazon.
Right, because it's good to know Amazon and to know how to do it for when we do sell things, but we're kind of walking this fine line right now where we don't want to create our own conflict of interest.
Yeah. I mean, because like if you were selling like a car lot's dead car stop for them, let's just say, and you were trying to flip those out like to buyers all over the country, but then you opened up a dealership right in the same hometown, they, even if you weren't selling their cars on, if you were selling other cars, I mean, it's like you became like, they almost trained you in some ways to become their competitor. That may be how some of them feel. And I don't want anybody to feel that way. So we are, like you said, walking that fine line.
Well, and Aaron brings up a great question that we'll both have different answers to, I'm sure. But I'd say that yard sale season officially kicks off in the Charlotte greater metro area this weekend.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many community yard sale signs we've seen in the South Charlotte area. Ben and I were driving around home from practice last night, and my church sale isn't this weekend, but it'll be soon. But the one on the way home from here has their big community sale. There's another one over on the way to the Whole Foods that is having one. So
yeah, we definitely should hit some of them, I think.
I really think so.
We haven't really planned sort of our yard sale strategy and what we'll do with that, but it wouldn't take that long to sort of figure that out. But yard sales are a great place potentially to find some amazing products to sell.
Well, and it would be silly for us not to tomorrow in particular, because they're two of the hugest community sales are happening within a mile of our home.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. And if you hit the yard sale trail, get those apps like Yard Sale Treasure Map or whatever it's called, and plan your route. Like, don't just haphazardly drive around. Like, you'll spend so much time.
Oh my gosh. Look who's in the chat.
It's yard sale
Speaking
season.
Of Ben, hey buddy, can't wait to get home and see ya. Mwah.
Yeah. So yard sales are coming and we're excited about it. Consignment's working great, Ninja. Thanks for asking. I love doing it.
Yeah, it's actually evolving. We have some things in the works that are pretty exciting about how it's going to evolve and even further and in a different route. And there may even be a website involved. Just saying.
There could be. Charlotte has an insane amount of yard sales. It does.
Yes, and it looks like officially, according to Ben, we will be going tomorrow morning.
That's the great thing about living in the South. The weather gets better quicker, so you start hitting these opportunities for things like yard sales.
Yeah, I still envy Florida. Like certain parts of Florida, like
I don't envy Florida.
Well, just stay with me. So, Florida, certain parts of Florida will run, and even Texas, California will run yard sales year round. So there you go.
Right. So, all right. Well, listen, guys, it is Friday and it's the end of the week and it's almost 3:00, which means it's the end of our show.
And almost the end of our day. We've got some things we have to wrap up and go to the post office and
That's
all
right.
that kind of stuff. So,
but hopefully you guys will take some of those tips and other tips too. And if you have tips for other people, please leave them down below in this video in the comments. Other people would like to learn too. So
right, your
it's always great
input,
to learn from
your
other people.
constructive criticism, your brilliant questions, I guarantee you, pay it forward, will benefit someone else somewhere down the line. And as we talked about at the beginning of the show, maybe decades from now in this YouTube time capsule that we're creating.
You never know. But thank you guys for coming out. Check out the description for helpful links. And of course, as always,
this is Just Ask Kaaren
and Prof Sales
saying good sales to you.